And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to Wednesday Night Talk with James. We got Paul Sturwald. I think I said that right. I hope so. We're going to be talking a lot about float fishing tonight. So come and join us. We hold these truths to be self-evident. You got to hold up a second. You got something running in the background?
No, we ran into this problem last time.
You might have to sign out, go into your phone, cut your YouTube off.
Are we still echoing?
Yep, we echoing bad.
Hold on.
Yep. Go out or figure out and cut your YouTube off. I think that's what the problem is.
Hold on.
Live.
The YouTube off.
Yep. I think that's where we get our feedback from because it's open for
But I
people.
wasn't on YouTube. What do you mean? The first page we went into?
No, your YouTube channel itself. You got it. Is it up and running?
Yeah, I'm not on YouTube. I've not been on YouTube, but I'll look here. Hold up.
If it's up, just shut it, close it down.
No, I'm not on YouTube.
Get feedback. You got another device with the volume up on it?
Nope. It's just we were just live 10 minutes ago. What happened?
That's what I'm saying. When we went live, it's picking up something from somewhere else. Like, do you have YouTube on your phone?
Yeah.
Pull it up on your phone.
Okay.
And then sign out of it.
Okay.
Well, do you remember your password first to get back in it? I don't want you to sign out. You can't get back in YouTube.
Yeah.
Most time that's where it's feedback from. Sorry, everybody. We'll get this figured out in just a second.
And I don't think it's I've never even signed out of YouTube, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm clicking out of it. I'm not even. Can you hear me?
Yeah, he's gone. We'll get it figured out here in just a second, guys and gals. But God bless you. God bless America. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're going to talk a little bit about float fishing. All different kind of float fishing. As soon as we can get Paul back in here, he's wearing the flatheads out. Hold on just a second. Let's see if we got it straightened out. Hello.
Hey.
No echoes now.
I didn't do anything, though.
Did you not?
I just clicked out of your live stream and I came back in.
Okay. Well, whatever it was, it took care of it.
Okay. All right.
Very good. Appreciate you coming to join us tonight, Paul. Maybe we should have done that last time, maybe.
I didn't know. Now we know.
Yeah, now we know. Don't know why. Let me holler out a few people that's in chat already, and we'll get started. I'm seeing Avid, Trophy Seekers Outdoor Fishing, and Freedom Love, that name. Avid was the first one in. Real Gals Fishing. We got some ladies in the house with us tonight. The Chad's in the house. Carolina Catfish. Come on, Carolina Catfish Outdoor with Big Matt. Carolina Catfish. I'm trying to see. A lot of them, they're still talking amongst each other. Not a whole lot in here right now. Guys, if you don't mind, hit the thumbs up. Share this out. This is some good information, especially for people that's bought the floats or used floats or thinking about using the floats or on the fence about using floats for catfishing. Whether it's my floats or whether it's any other floats on the market, there's Mike Sampson. This live feed tonight, we hope to bring you some great information that will answer some questions for you and maybe get you out there using another tool in your toolbox. I see David Martin's in the house. Fins and Finds 2 stands. Jeremy Colvin, Van Taylor, David Martin. Who else? I don't want to miss anybody. There's Nelson Waters, Panfish Nation. I believe that would be Lyle's in the house under Panfish Nation. Crappy Dave Fish on. There's Smitty. that's a new name, unless it was. I don't think that's P City Smitty. My thing just jumped, and I done lost half
I
of
think
them.
that's one of my fishing buddies.
Oh, I hear you, Smitty.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Appreciate it. That's my last name, Smith. So that's what the boys at work used to call me, Smitty, or the A word.
Right.
Fins and Fines, Catfish Pappy. Who else? There's Mark, Catfish and Crappy, Catfish and Dreams, Wayne Smith. If I missed any names, we'll pick it up as time goes on. We got 31 people, guys. Thank you for coming in here. Make sure you check out Paul on Facebook. Man's killing some flatheads with the floats. He's got some different ways of doing things. And while you get set up, then show them a little bit. Show them your rod and reel, how you set up and use it, and we'll kind of go along explaining why you do it and what you do to do what you do.
Okay.
So show them your rod.
Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, we got you.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just using a big cat fever, heavy, which it's whatever you prefer. Whatever. I'm using the orange. I like the orange. Basically, all I'm doing is, okay, now you got me all nervous. I'm not used to being on. I just do what I do. I put the bobber stop on. I use the bobber stop. I don't know if you can see that. I should have cut these tag ends off, but I didn't. I use a bobber stop, but what I do is I end up I take some extra line and I tie a big fat knot above my bobber stop, because sometimes this bead will want to pull through, and then they can go any depth that they want. So to reassure that the bead ain't going to pull through, I tie a bunch of knots and just some extra fishing string above your
bobber stop.
Above your bobber stop, and then your bead.
Right.
And then the way this works, which I was confused at first, this just clips on. I don't know if you can see that online. It just clips on your line.
Yep.
And then 1 ounce weight, and that's just to hold the bluegill down, because sometimes he'll come to the top of the water, and it seems like you'll get your stuff tangled more.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If he comes up, he's going to tangle you up.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty simple.
So
the one thing I've learned,
you stick basically with a Carolina rig when you throw in floats.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm going to show them tonight how we tie and I'll use a Kentucky rig with mine, and usually a 2-hook rig with a Kentucky rig. Then I can present 2 baits. And now we're getting an echo again. Dadgummit. Hold up. That might be me. I had something in front of this speaker down here. The reason I make that decision is sometimes if I can only catch the smaller bluegill or smaller baits, I'll run a cut bait and a live bait. Usually run the live bait up top on a short line, and then the cut bait a little bit closer to the bottom on a longer line. Now out there where you fishing right now, you fishing lakes, but you do fish rivers. What are you running into? What are you looking at for fall fishing coming up using these floats? How are you going to fish them? Depth, as far as depth, structure, whatever that you're looking for. Try to explain a little bit of that to them, please.
My philosophy, this is just me. I don't like to throw mine right in the brush because I don't feel like getting him back, because he's going to get in some stuff. I put him close to the brush. I usually, if I'm on a boat, I'll do a drive-by. If it's 10 feet of water, I'll suspend him like 6 feet of water, 7 feet of water. He's not even close to the bottom, because them big flatheads, they'll come up from the bottom and they'll smack them. I don't ever throw. I just throw within like 6 feet of brush. And sometimes it ain't brush. It might be points. I just let him swim around, set my clicker, and let him do his thing. And after 45 minutes, if nothing, I move. I mean, everything I've got's been on floats. So, and I like to fish the bottom. I always throw the Carolina rig, but here lately it's not been working out too well. Everything's been coming off of a float. So, and Usually,
So
everything's been 15 minutes. When I'm there, within 15 minutes, the float's gone down. I mean, and that holds true every time. So,
are you sticking, or when you say that last spot, that one big flathead you caught that you really wasn't wanting to show your video, and then you finally did. You finally posted it up that had the rocky banks. Were they structure there that you was fishing on? Or you just
I think flatheads naturally. I'll, just to be honest, I think flatheads naturally like rocks, and that looked like a new bank to me. It looked like it was fresh built, so I thought, man, it'd be soft, and a flathead could possibly dig a hole underneath there for nesting, or bait fish will go up in the rocks, and it was just more. There's more oxygen there, and we just threw the bobber out. I was conversating with my son. Next thing you know, this clicker's just screaming, and that's the best feeling in the world. When I hooked that thing, I knew he was big.
So mainly though, you throwing toward the structure, right?
Not always. Sometimes I just let him swim around. I'm just somewhere close to the bank. I'm not fishing. Well, actually, that's a lie. I found a random hole out in the middle of the river, and there's nothing around, and I threw my float out there, and we got a good one out of that too. So I'm just throwing wherever. If I don't know. I just throw structure, and sometimes I'll fish in the middle of the river. It just depends what's down there.
Right. So if you're marking, I don't know where that echo comes from. I don't know what is causing an echo. And this is your boat. Yeah, this is your boat. And say you in 35 foot of water.
Okay.
And this is 35 foot. Now down here underneath your boat, I'm trying to make sure I can see I'm on the screen. And you mark, this is your bottom. And you're marking structure. Wood. Yeah, it's 35 foot.
Yeah.
Would you float a bait? This is the water. Would you float a bait over top of this structure?
No, yeah, I'd have one on the back side of it, and I'd have two floats around there. Yeah, I'd float right above it. If it was 10 feet of water, I'd be 2 feet above it and just let him swim around. Whatever's down there is going to eat him.
Right.
And I believe you're less likely to get hung up with a float. And if you throw Carolina rig straight in the bottom, you're more likely to get hung up. I think it's just a more natural presentation when he's on a float, and I think that's why I've had a lot of luck with him. So
right. All right. Now I've come down the river before and been running the river channels, and most time it's in cooler weather. And I've marked, you got a river channel, say here, your river channels, but I've marked catfish up here on these channel ledges. Now it's impossible to put a bottom rig on that channel edge. So what do you do? You're going to float a bait at that level right there.
Right.
So people, when you're going down through there and on your graph and you're seeing bait suspended, pretty much any fish that eats that bait is going to suspend also.
Yep.
They will run these channel ledges trying to capture that bait, or they might be laying there because they've got structure that we can't see with our graph for them to hold there to ambush bait. Flatheads look up, guys. Remember, flatheads look up. Their eyes are on top of their head. They're looking up for live bait. Yeah, they will take cut bait. In fact, on Wiley, that you will catch 90% of your flatheads on cut bait, not live bait. But just realize channel ledge up here is also structure. A hole in the middle of this channel ledge is structure. Structure is anything that holds a fish, whether it's a rock, it's tree, or just a hump on the bottom. Anything that's irregular, that is, do you prefer the string bobber stops or the rubber football stops? Right now, what I give with the floats, I don't give with them myself, with the floats, is the knot style. I have went with a different style where you got the teal ones. I went with these pink ones. They're made with a different type of string. It's a little bit thicker string. So hopefully they'll work better. And until I can find a bigger bead with a tiny hole in it, I send two beads. I send a tiny bead and a bigger bead. Put your tiny bead on first and then your larger bead. And I forgot to bring my list up here, dumb tail. Tying a bobber stop, for those of you who don't know, you take your line, you just slide the bobber stop through it, pull it up on your line, pull your tube off of the knot. I'm hurrying. Pull your tube out, drop it, throw it in the trash. Your knot's on there. Put your bead on, your small, tiny bead, and then put your bigger bead. And then for a Carolina rig, you just put you an egg sinker. I keep trying to find the camera. Put your Carolina rig, another bead, and then your swivel. Then you tie on your leader. I like a Kentucky rig, like I said a second ago, simply because I can offer multiple baits. I can offer multiple baits at a time when the bite is slow or whatever. When it's fast, I'm like you, Paul. I'll run just strictly a Carolina rig. Get it out there, get it in the water fast, so they'll hook up with it pretty fast and ready to go. And most of the time, guys and gals, really, all you need to do to use these floats, I'm getting ready to make a mess, is just put a bobber stop and your beads on your line. That's all you have to leave on this line. And you got a Carolina rig to fish on the bottom. But if you come to a spot that you know you need to float fish, all you got to do is in between your sinker and your bobber stop is just line it up with that little bitty clip. I act like a daggone rookie, don't I? Find that camera, line up that little clip. You see it, guys. You don't have to use a sinker slide, and just pop it. And she's ready to go. She slide up and down all day long, all night long, however you want to fish them. And when you're done with it, want to fish the bottom, you just take it off and you're ready to go back to the bottom with a Carolina rig or a Kentucky rig, however you want. Now, Paul, you told me that you're doing a lot of lake fishing right now.
Right.
We got a lot of people in here that lake fish, but we also have a lot of them that river fish. Where are some spots that you feel that they could use them in the river, and how would they set them up?
Sorry. I would fish eddies. Our river don't really have any current unless you get a lot of rain. And our river, it's good all over. I mean, I would chuck it out in the middle. If you were bank fishing, you didn't know what you were throwing at, you didn't see no structure, just chuck it out there, let it swim around. I really truly believe the bait fish do all the work. I mean, if you're anywhere within strike zone, I believe they can sense them bait fish from a good distance. They target in on them and take them. I guess I'd fish eddies. If you see trees, you want to fish, throw it up next to a tree. Just be aware you're probably gonna lose some. I try to keep mine away from the tree like 5 feet. And if I know the depth, if it's 10 feet, I'll suspend it 6 or 8, whatever you want. He's going to come up and get it.
Right.
Pretty much same thing that you would fish, if you would fish structure, you could fish it with a bobber, as you would throwing on the bottom. It's pretty much the same.
All right. Now, we're getting ready to get into a little bit more technical uses on these.
Okay.
When you buy the mega packs, which you've got one, Paul.
Right.
And when you buy the mega pack, they come with the drifting rig, which comes with a clip, a planter board clip, an easy way to clip it on and off. And you can use these. I'm getting ready to give you a bunch of ideas for y'all to run with it. These are made, Junior Proctor, Blue Dog Fishing, come up using these, dragging behind his boat, drifting or dragging. What he does, he'll put out his planer boards first, and then he'll put out the same amount of line before he clips on his boards as he does his bobbers. I call it long lining. And then he will just take and unscrew this cap, put that aside, screw this one in. Now you got a dragon float. What happens is, let me grab a line. I'm getting ready to make a mess. And guys, this is the line I use, Dandy Monster. Mono, I'm a mono guy. All right, to use this dragon clip, after you put out your long line, usually he uses the drifting sticks or whatever you choose to use. You know what I'm talking about, the drifting weights.
Right. And
what he does is he'll cast out however far he wants to be underneath his float. These brand new ones are tough. He will clip it behind that little peg in there. There's a little peg in it. He'll clip it behind it and then clip this clip onto the line also. And what happens, then he'll let that drift back as he's dragging baits on up through there. Because remember, his boat is already floating, is already drifting. And what happens, I'm about to make a tangled up mess and look like a rookie because I don't do this. He does. I've never tried it yet. And what happens, this right here will hold his bait just like a planer board, except these are directly behind his boat. But he long lines them. He'll put them way out back. And his idea is that as you're drifting or dragging up through there, the boat spooks the fish a little bit in the water. He's done seen it on his graph. He's got one of the live scopes. And the fish will kind of scatter out, but he's finding out that these fish are coming back. And he's catching them on the floats directly behind the boat. But also, now I'm getting back to the river, guys. The river. On the river, what he does, he anchors upstream from structure he wants to fish. And then he will put these floats on there just like what we just did, except, dang, that's a tough spring in that rascal. Arthritis don't help. Instead of putting it behind that little nipple, he puts it in front of it. If I can get it out behind it. All right. He puts it in front of it. And then he lets it drift back to right where he wants it at that structure. And then he'll pop his line. And then the float just becomes a float. It's not doing anything. He allows this float to become a bait placement device. It no longer comes into effect. It just slides up and down his line. It don't affect anything. He uses it to place his bait exactly where he wants it under them circumstances. All right. But I got to thinking the other night, you know me, guys, I get up and down all hours of the night. I got to thinking, what other ways can these tops be used? Well, you can also use them in rivers and in lakes while you're bank fishing. Do it the same way, but allow that bait to hit the bottom. But before it hits the bottom, like I said, clip it in front of that nipple. Allow that bobber to take your bait to where you want it, bank fishing or not, to where you want it. Pop your line and allow that bait to drop where you want it. Now, you are still fishing off the bottom. You're not suspended. But if you got a little bit of patience, you can always take and suspend underneath your floats using this drifting rig or just a bobber stop without the rig if you just got the bobbers, and throw them upstream and then let it bump downstream. It put a drifting weight on there so it's actually bumping that bottom as it's going downstream instead of flying down the water That weight bumping the bottom is going to slow that bait down, and it's going to be about like them guys bumping baits on rivers. Don't you think?
I don't know. I'm simple, man. I just use it the way I'm going to use it. Throw it out, let it swim around. That's too much. I ain't going to do all that, man.
I'm trying to help some. What I'm trying to do, Paul, is help some guys that actually do a lot of bait fishing. And I've got a lot of people that are buying them for bait fishing. Some of them's on rivers, some of them's on lakes. Different ideas that they can run with and try while they out there. Sure, they can put their rods out.
If they just threw it out there, my honest opinion, it'd work just as well. Just throwing it out, let it swim around. I mean, even with me, when you got a bobber, you got to babysit it. I mean, he'll be this way, that way. You know.
That's it in a nutshell, and I'm glad you said that because you do have to be a bobber watcher. If you got it near structure, you better watch it because they don't care. He'll drag that float and everything in the structure with him.
Yep.
Then you got a mess.
Yep.
That's all I'm trying to do is give them a little more behind the nipple, change the line, and keep in front of the line, completely loose from the bobber. Right. That's why I said in front of the nipple and behind the nipple. If you want to pop it loose to let the float just float around out there, then you can do that. That one clip will still hold it on your line so you don't lose it, but you're allowed to place your bait where you want it. Junior uses that down into Santee Cooper, but down in the river part of the lake, where they always got current. He knows the places got some deep holes. Don't have the structure, but it has holes. And he'll let that bait float back, and then he'll pop that line, and it'll do away with the float. It still slides up and down his line, but now that bait's exactly where he wants it in front of them holes or dead in the holes.
That makes sense. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, he does real well doing that in the river sections. And I'm sure you could probably do that in any of your rivers, if you mark structure or whatever, and they're not coming up for the baits. Is use it just to place that bait where you want it, right over it, mark where you want it. Look at your graph, look at how many feet it is away. Especially if you got line counters on your reels, then you know exactly how far to drift that thing back and then pop it loose. What circumstances would you not use a float for?
Who, me?
Yeah. I'm just been you talking.
I don't know. I wouldn't use it in really heavy. Just me myself, I would not use it in really heavy current. I think it would be pointless unless you were fishing an eddy. But then with an eddy, I think that could be if it was a fast running eddy. Big swirls, fast swirls, it could get tangled up. I would just throw one on the bottom. That's the only situation I wouldn't use one. I mean, I've caught a lot of good fish, and I don't know. I mean, I ain't saying I went to caught them on the bottom, but bobber's been productive. I've been fishing bottom and top, and I can't get nothing off the bottom. So
now that tangling up. Explain what one of the problems that you and somebody else was having a problem at. They didn't understand, and I don't have one. I thought I had one.
That's all right. I got one right here.
A sinker slide on there. And
what would happen is I let my bluegill, I throw my line out, and like say I throw them up, say I'm 40 feet off the bank. I throw my bobber up 20 feet from the bank. I got a bunch of line out. What he'll do is he'll swim up, he'll swim back, he'll swim left, right. And usually when he comes back, what's happening is it seems like if my line's just sitting slack in the water, sometimes it'll get wrapped around just around here. It's like it'll do circles. And it does it a lot worse if you don't have a weight on it. It'll do it about every time you throw it out, but it don't happen all the time. And I think that's just part of it. You got to pay attention to it. And usually if you pull it up out of the water, you should be able to take it and just go backwards how many ever times it's. And I think it's just because the bluegill's just doing circles. That's one problem I've had with it. Other than that, I mean, it don't stop a hookup or any of that stuff.
Right.
Otherwise, it's been fantastic.
Well, you told me yourself, and one of the lady catfishers was hooking onto a sinker slide, and then you had that much more of a rig that the line was getting all wrapped up and tangled up in.
Yeah.
Do you think that you could actually add more weight to make the brim stay down would work better, or?
Yeah, but I think there's a fine line. I don't want to put too much weight on him. The more he swims around, the better.
Yeah.
If I can just keep him down, I don't want to weight him to where it wears him out, and then he just, I want him to be lively.
So that's the name of the game, is actually making that bait look as natural as possible.
Yep. Yep. And if my bluegill's not real active, I'll get rid of him and I'll put a new one on. So.
Yeah. Yes, Catfish and Dream, that little clip that you've seen, I don't have one just by itself.
What are you talking about?
That little clip that you see there's a barrel swivel in between it where it clips on the line, and that'll just, and it's a good barrel swivel. It'll spin like crazy, but when the line is loose, yeah, there you go. When the line is loose, like he's talking about, and that brim's up there swimming around, it's like that line just starts gathering around where the float is, and next thing you know, it will tangle up. There's some times when you might have to deal with that. Excuse me. It comes natural. I've had, when I first got into catfishing, the Santee Cooper rig drove me freaking crazy until I learned how to cast it. There was a certain way that you could cast them and you wouldn't have that problem. Some people probably cast natural that way and they wasn't having that freaking problem, but I was. I'd come back and I'd have a mess. But what it was the way I was casting it. That might be true with the float, these style of floats. Now, the little pencil floats, you can rear back and throw the crap out of them. These you can't. They catch a little more wind. They're a little bit lighter or whatever, and they catch a lot of wind. So it might be just the way people throw them. But to me, I think it's the bait itself that are doing the tangling. That causing that ball up of line on there. That's why I go more with a Kentucky rig.
I don't know about you, but I can chuck these things. I have no problem throwing them. 1 ounce weight, I can throw them far. And the pencil weights, or not the weights, but the bobbers and pencil bobbers, I can't. Every time my bluegill would go down, it would take it down, and you would get up multiple times thinking you had a bite. If this thing's going down, it's definitely not the bluegill.
Yeah, he'll pull it around, but he won't pull it under. You'd have to have a 1 pound brim on there to pull him under. And I don't know if he will.
No, probably not.
But I mean, so far I haven't had any problem with line tangling up using the Kentucky rig because that bait is staying down. But now I haven't tried it in real shallow water yet. Because real shallow water, I'm actually going to be using a lot less weight, a Carolina rig. So we're going to see. I'll find out. That's why I need feedback like it from you, Paul. You give me good feedback so I can pass it along to everybody else that comes in here or that buys the floats. They need to be able to see and use these floats and know that this is going to be a strength for them, and this is going to be a weakness for them, just like any other rig. Whether you use we was talking about it earlier, a Santee rig. Now, wintertime, when the catfish get mud on them, I take the peg float off. I fish just a plain Carolina rig without a peg float. It seems like I get a lot more hookups. Question on hookups. I've heard quite a few people say, James, I'm having problems getting hookups with the floats. Do I just need to leave the rod in the stand until he starts pulling the rod down, or what? How do you work and have such a good hookup ratio with your floats?
It's not always the best. I've missed a couple. What I do is I just I run a clicker. I don't let him pull it down. I truly believe some of these big fish are smart. They don't get that big for being dumb, and I believe if they feel a little bit of resistance, they're going to drop it. So that being said, I run the clicker. And what I do is I just usually, if I'm on the front of the boat, by the time I walk to the back of the boat and him pulling the clicker, I just get it out of the rod holder. I click it, and I reel till I know he's there, and I can feel his resistance. When I can feel him like going to physically pull me off the boat, like it's me and him time, I just set the hook. And but I run a Whisker Seeker triple threat, and it's a circle/J. So I don't know if you necessarily have to reset the hook, but I do just to play it safe. And usually he's there, but sometimes I believe, I've done everything right and I miss him. And I think it's just sometimes that's just the way it goes. It's fishing, it didn't set right in his mouth, and there's nothing you could have done about it. So,
well, and there's certain times of the year they'll do that even on a bottom rig. They'll slam it, pull it, and then you go there and there ain't nothing there. Come back bait mashed flat, or the scales knocked off a brim or whatever because it's a flathead, or most time it's a big channel. If he mashes that old brim flat, I think they just kill him just to kill him.
Yep.
I do. I believe a dang old channel, he'll mash the crap out of them.
I've had some just kill him and leave him, because by the time I got up, he pulled the bobber under. By the time I got up, the bobber was back up, and I go to pull my bluegill in, and he scaled it and killed it. And you can see his worst pad marks went across it. And I'm like, but I was fishing close to undercuts, where maybe they were nesting and it was too close to the nest and he moved it out. I don't really know, or I have no clue. I don't know. Weird.
I've pulled them back in. They'd be mashed like that and scales knocked off of them. I thought, what in the world? How did he miss that hook?
Right.
Like that. But it's for people, if you didn't have the hybrid hooks and the main thing you throw is circle hooks, you really probably need to wait till that rod either loads up, or you're going to have to reel your slack up out of the line and wait till that rod starts loading up in your hands, or fish with J hooks.
I don't even want to. The only reason I've ever used a just circle hook was when I was just fishing on the bottom. I let him bend the rod down. I never used a straight circle with a bobber, so I don't want to speak upon it. But I do have a friend that Austin. He's pretty good at. He can set the hook with a circle with it's a smooth action, and I can't do it. I can tell you that. So he can. I don't even want to speak upon it. I don't know.
It's kind of a sweeping action, I think. I've seen people do it.
I sweep and miss them, so I don't use them. I don't.
Justin Fishing Fetish said, I let them pull the float and reel in slow till I feel them. Then I'll reel fast and set the hook.
Yeah,
so that's basically that's about like using any float, really. I mean, you want to reel your slack up out of the line, because if you try to snatch that slack out of the line, most time you're going to either snatch the hook and bait out of his mouth, or you just ain't gonna get a good hook set on him.
And I did that this past weekend on one of those fish that I probably could have had. He could have been big, but I did that. I didn't wait till the line was tight. I jumped the gun because he was running at me, and I had a bunch of slack in here anyway, so I felt like I was reeling 100 mile an hour, and I still wasn't catching him. And eventually I just yanked back, and next thing you know, he wasn't there in the bait, and I was like, really? I jumped the gun.
When you're on a boat, you can't do like a carp fisherman and run up the daggum bank with it.
Right. Yeah, so I screw up too. I'm not perfect. So,
are you ever using cut baits on them?
For flatheads, yes, I like cut bait. Shad, I like cut shad, big heads and big old middle pieces, but I've not with this float. Everything's been live.
Right. Yeah. That's another bait to try, man. I mean, that's what we catch our flatheads on is cut bait.
We're going to throw in that this weekend. We're going to be using cut bait.
So what, mainly in your water, do you not have any blues there?
No blues. Closest blues is a couple hours away and at a lake, and I've never fished for them.
So you just got flatheads and channels.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, trying to see if there's any questions out there. What size hooks for channels? I don't use over a 2/0 hook for channels, even though they'll daggone take bigger hooks. I've caught daggone 1 pound channels on a daggone 10/0 circle hook.
Yep.
I have. So, yes. And a lot of it is seasonal, right? I mean, when they're taking small baits, go with small hooks. Taking big baits, I throw big hooks. I'm bad about throwing big. I stick with an 8 to a 10/0. 8's a good. Of course, I use Katsu's. 8 is a good all-around size hook. It really is. I've seen people throwing a lot bigger ones, but no, you get up to them 12/0 hooks. Now you call that's $1 a piece per hook. They ain't cheap, so you better be prepared to come out of the pocket with them.
Right.
I was thinking I had some. That's the wrong carriage. What other advice that we can give these guys and gals that's maybe bank fishermen that's on the ropes, whether to use a float or not use a float?
Just try it.
Just try it. But one thing I'm going to tell you guys, you don't always have to throw to the center of the lake. Paul's sitting right here telling you he's catching his off the bank. I catch a lot off the bank. I'm talking about.
Well, they're right next to the bank. I'm on a boat going to the bank.
I've caught 30-pound blues and flatheads 2 foot off the bank. Throw it up on the bank and drag it back off in the water. Well, not on a float, but just on a regular rig, simply because you're in 1 or 2 foot of water. But if the bank's cut off pretty steep right there, then you can use a float and let it present a more natural bait.
Yeah. We'll let the wind. Here's a good thing to say. If you're fishing the bank, what I would do is I'd get on the side of the bank. If the wind was blowing, I'd throw with the wind. That way the wind would help work your bait across the river. So yes, you're not constantly throwing it back out if he's swimming to the bank.
Smitty said, be willing to change up and step outside your comfort zones and use a new setup. You're exactly right, Smitty. And that's all I'm trying to do, guys, is that we've had that stigma for so long that catfish feed on the bottom, and we all know better just by watching YouTube videos. Right. You know, really, just by watching YouTube videos, we realize that the flathead likes to feed up. He can see. He will feed down. And, you know, if he has to, I mean, he ain't going to pass up a meal.
No.
But he would prefer, he's got everything under control when it's above him or right dead in front of him because that's where his eyes are placed. Blues, they'll feed anyway, either way, up or down. And, of course, the channel will too. But it's, I think you're more apt to learn your fish and how he's going to eat at each season. Seasons have a lot to do with how you fish, right?
Right. I still use a float in the cold weather, though, too. I mean, you just downsize bait. And I have had a flathead that passed up a bait. I seen a big monster flathead under my boat. I marked on the sonar unit, and there was a couple bluegills out, and he went right past them. Went right underneath him. Never even stopped to get it. I know it was a flathead. I never got a picture of that flathead, but you could see, I mean, on that hummingbird, it looked just like a big flathead. It was a monster, and I was so in awe, I should have took a picture. But he went right past my bluegills.
Never stopped and grabbed them.
Nope. But heck, you know, for all I know, he done smashed a bunch of shad up the river, or whatnot. So you don't,
had his belly full, and he was going home to lay down for a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. It was so cool to see.
And you're right, catfishing dreams. That was the next thing I was going to bring up. Let me get my marker. Lake surface, lake bottom. If your lake has not been able to move a lot of water, we got one lake up above us, I forgot to say, is Lake Norman. And the upper part of the lake, they'll get a little bit of a current. But the lower part of the lake is so big, so wide, that it never gets enough current down there to stir up the bottom. But when that happens, guess what, guys? You'll get a thermocline set up. And when you get that thermocline set up, this water right here is going to be dead.
Yep.
And when it does, you will have fish that'll suspend right over that thermocline. Bait fish and feeding fish. If you mark that, look at your graph, and your graph will show you where this thing is. Even if you have to turn your sensitivity up a little bit, you will start noticing there won't be no fish down here in this area. If that's the case, put on your float. Float your baits right here. But pay attention to your graph where you're going places, guys. The night I caught my biggest blue, I come around the corner, hot as a freaking firecracker. Actually, they should have been in full spawn, but I actually caught a female coming off the nest. And all the fish I caught that night, except her. Now, she didn't come on a float, but she was the only one that come off the bottom. All the rest of the fish I caught that night come off a float. And that was before I had these floats. All I had was the little old pencil floats. And I was using cut bait, big cut bait. And every one of them was coming off cut bait. But when I was coming around the corner getting ready to set up, I marked quite a few big arches suspended. Now, Paul, I was in 35 foot of water. You know how deep these fish are suspended? 9 foot.
Yep.
Not 9 foot from the bottom, 9 foot from the surface.
Oh, yeah.
So I set all my floats at about 6 foot, 7 foot, throw them out there, and every catfish come off of floats except the big one. Every one of them. Now, she might have, you know, but I think she had just come off the bed. She was running the river channels headed. There's a mussel bed right over from where I was sitting. So that's probably where she was headed, was that mussel bed to get her belly full and come across my bait first, you know. So that's other ways to use these floats, guys. And got another guy out there. I ain't going to mention his name because sometimes he likes it mentioned. Sometimes he don't. He's like you, Paul. He's had some chasers out there on him.
All right.
He will drag this channel edge hanging right here. He'll throw his baits and floats up here, and then he'll allow that float to drag his baits right over that channel edge, and then it'll drop. And when he sees that bobber start standing up hard, then he knows he dropped right off of that channel edge. And when he does that, his baits are suspended. He's done marked suspended fish. And that's how he places baits partial of the way up onto the channel edge where them fish are suspended. So, you know, guys, try it. You know, all you have to do is try it. And I'm not trying to sell you my floats, guys. This is not what this show is about tonight. I don't care what kind of float you use. You can tie a Coke bottle on it. Just get out there and fish and try it. You might, if you do not use some type of float catfishing, you're really missing out on a great tool to add to your toolbox.
Plus, it's like being a kid again, you know? I mean, when you watch your bobber go under, but it's more exciting because you're fishing for catfish, so.
Yeah. And you don't know. To me, I'm waiting to video that one. It looks like them barrels on Jaws. Going across the water and headed down.
Right.
So, you know, I got a January, the last of January, 1st of February, I'll be throwing up in 4 foot of water, 2 foot of water for them big blues on sunny days. And that's when I'm waiting to see it. I'm waiting on that bobber to take off across the water because he can't go down with it. All he can do is drag it across the surface.
Right.
Twisted, get a hold of me through Messenger. I know you do Facebook. Just message me, my friend, and we will set you up. I promise you, we will set you up. Because old Twisted, he's the one that made my logo, my Patriot Catfisher logo. Heck of a job. Heck of a job, Frank. Thank you. I'll give him a shout out for that one. Anything else you might want to share with them on the floats, man?
Just try it. Like Smitty said, don't go. I mean, you can go outside your comfort zone. I've never really used a float, and it's been a game changer. I'm not even gonna throw on the bottom. I'm gonna use 2 floats this weekend. They're so productive. They're 10 times more productive than throwing on the bottom. Now, don't get me wrong. I still like throwing on the bottom, but when the water's a little bit warm, I like to throw floats. And I'll still throw them when the water's cold, though, too.
Right.
And before I started using them, I know guys that's used them, and they swore by them, and I just never really thought that much about it. And I thought, heck, I'm still catching fish. But, I think floats are more productive.
Well, and it's like you said, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago when you went out and one of your buddies went out, he wasn't using floats and you used floats, he didn't catch fish and you did.
Right.
They wasn't feeding on the bottom.
Nope.
I wonder why that is.
And we're actually the thermocline. That's what we've been trying to do. O2 is suspend above the thermocline, because I can see it on my sonar unit. You shouldn't have to do no adjusting if it's straight out of the box. I mean, you can see where the bait fish are clearly on the chart, and I just fish right above them. So, and I learned a lot. It's harder to get them to bite when you see if you see a ball of shad and they're all balled up. To me, that tells me that they're being chased. And a lot of times I won't get a bite then. It's when I see all the shad all just spread out is when I'll get a bite. I don't know if that's because the flathead's keyed in on a ball bait and he don't care about my bluegill or not, but
right.
That's what I found out.
Yeah, eyes and mouth. Yeah, I mean, just like a flathead, he's got that long lower jaw. He's wanting to feed up. He's wanting to grab that bait upward. So it really comes down to paying attention to what that fish is doing on your graph when you do mark them. But not all the time will you mark fish, guys and gals. Not all the time will that graph tell you there's fish there. That graph's used for other things, like he said. You can see the thermocline, you can see structure and stuff, and know where you want to place your baits. Use your tools to the best of their abilities. And a bobber's just a tool.
I agree.
The bobber's just a tool. Well, Paul, it's been a good one. And I know you're tired, man. You got an early day. You start early. You drive a truck, don't you?
Yes, sir.
I seen y'all. What was them big old rascals y'all was carrying on that truck?
Big old tile, plastic tile to go in the field for all this rain.
I hear you. I thought it was some kind of big pipes or something.
We make it and haul it, so.
We got a company over here in Bessemer City that makes them big old plastic tiles, big plastic pipe.
Yeah, I work for Boffman Tile. They've been around for centuries, and they got a lot of customers that make some good pipes. So
I hear you.
All over.
Yeah, I'm glad you got a job. I'm glad they're keeping you busy, and that's keeping your family fed, man.
100%.
Plus, giving you a little time off to catch some catfish. I heard you done hit the boss man up, so you're gonna hit it. You're gonna get out there and get on them.
They said I wasn't going to get the vacation, and he said, "Oh, it'll take him weeks to answer you." I got an answer in a day.
Aha! There you go. Well, Paul, I want to thank you, man. You've been a big advocate. You've been a big supporter of the floats. Guys and gals, for some reason, you'd want a set of floats from me, didn't you?
Right.
The first ones?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought Paul had bought a big pack of 10, because I had another guy named Paul bought a box full, bought 10. He bought 5 of pink and 5 of green. And for some reason, when I seen these pictures and these fish, this Paul was putting up, I thought he had a big pack of floats. He had one orange float, because you give a buddy one of your other ones, right?
Right, and his son caught a fish on it.
There you go. So he was catching all those very first pictures you see with the orange float with one float. He got a big pack of floats now, so he can fish however many floats he wants to fish with, and he's got large and small floats. So you ready for current too. You ready for big baits and heavy weights if you need to.
Right.
These big floats will float up. You can put 16 ounces on it, but 16 ounces is going to bring your water up to about right here. And let me explain something right quick before we jump off here. Using a float don't mean how big a bait you have. It's how much lead you're throwing. If you're throwing a lot of lead, then you need a larger float. It ain't the bait. The bait becomes almost buoyant in the water. Your bait, it might weigh 2 pounds outside of the water, but in the water, it probably don't weigh an ounce, maybe an ounce and a half at most. So throw big baits if you want to throw them, but if you do have to throw heavier weights, guys and gals, if that's what you prefer to use, real heavy weights, order the larger floats. You will not be disappointed. I don't care if you order from me, Chris Flores, or whoever. If you build them yourself, just use them. Get out and fish.
Yep.
And don't be surprised you get giggling when them floats take off and go underwater, because if you still don't get tickled with the little red and white floats brim fishing, then you better find another hobby. That's it in a nutshell. Paul, thank you for coming in with us, guys. Be looking for more videos, more pictures. I love them. Post them up. We got a lot of people that can't fish that live through our channels, guys and gals. So post up the pictures and the videos. But while I got everybody on here, I'm going to challenge every freaking one of you, and I'm going to bug the crap out of you. Every video and every live feed, please fly Old Glory. Please put Old Glory somewhere in that picture, that video. There's a lot of junk going on in this country right now, and we need to let our veterans and our military people, police, fire, and EMS, paramedics, got a couple paramedics in here, that we do support them. And the only way to do that we can do it as YouTubers, is make sure anytime that camera's running, you're going to see the red, white, and blue behind you. Sorry, you can't see it now because I don't have my green screen on, but there you go. So please, that's going to be my challenge, guys and gals. Yeah, I want every one of you to fly it on your boat. I want every one of you to stick one up near your rod stand if you bank fishing. Got a lot of veterans, a lot of military people, a lot of police, fire, and EMS out there in this country. And when they see the stars and stripes flying, they know we support them. They know that them are Americans that support them 100%. So don't forget to do it. God bless y'all. God bless America. Paul, God bless you and your family. And thank you for everything you do for me, my friend. And I look forward to more of them. Don't run off right quick. I'll be right with you. God bless y'all. And we'll see y'all next Wednesday night. I think Country Boy Fishing's coming on right behind me. Good night, everybody.